Hey, this is Chad Campbell, certified functional medicine provider with Redesign U, and I wanted to come back on another update. It's been, gosh, I think a month since the last one, and I haven't been doing them because there hasn't been anything new, no new facts, no new findings as far as things that we can do, and I didn't want to saturate everybody with just repeating the same information over and over again. So I'm back. We got some stuff I want to talk about, and I also want to talk about some things that we knew were going to happen and that people kind of turned their head towards. So, here in Arizona, at least, we knew that. I think back in April, I had said that the predicted date that it was going to hit us in Arizona was June 11th. That was the big time. And so we knew that if it hit in June 11th, we had another 6 to 8 weeks of social isolation and everything after that. Well, with everything changing back east, they went ahead and started letting go of some of those restrictions before June 11th. And now we can see what's happening in Arizona, and it is just taking off. It is one of the hot spots now, even though we knew it wasn't going to hit until June 11th. So for me, I thought for sure it was going to end in end of July, go back in October, but I have no idea now. And none of us do, because it is just rampant. I mean, here in my office, we even had, I think it was like 6 positives just yesterday. And I just got done with the clinic. You probably see all my nose all jacked up. But the COVID clinic tonight, testing, I think 7 or 8 known exposures and people with symptoms. So my point with this is this. Please help each other, okay? It's everywhere. And everybody is so confused, including myself, on what are the right protocols to do. What's the right thing to do at this time? And I want to tell you a couple of the newer findings so that you can make a decision on your own, okay? So one of the new things that's kind of scary is this multifunctional or multi-system inflammatory syndrome that's happening in the kids. And I don't know if you've heard about it, but what happens is these kids are getting, where multiple organs are getting involved, believed to be from COVID, and what will happen is they'll start having symptoms with like a fever, some abdominal pain, maybe some vomiting or diarrhea, some neck pain, or they're just really, really tired. And it involves multiple organs, including the heart and the lungs and the kidneys and the eyes and the GI tract. And they're getting all of these symptoms and getting really, really sick. The good thing is that if you get them into your provider, that it has a really good outcome. The bad thing is they don't know why it's happening. Nobody has any understanding of it. And they don't have any idea of what kids are more likely to get it, which kids are able to recover fast. Nobody knows because it's still all new information. Immunity. I had a patient who was exposed to a woman who was told that her nasal swab was positive, but her antibody test was negative, so she didn't have it. And guess what? That's right, my patient tested positive. I have a patient who tested positive. The antibody was positive. We retested him 3 weeks later, and he built no immunity to it at all. Zero immunity. No protection from what his exposure was. At least what's measurable, no protection to it. They have people still testing positive 70, 90 days after, 100 days positive, still on the nasal PCR swab. One case, the guy tested positive, then had 2 negative PCRs, and then tested positive again. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. Even when you talk about in this horrible, maybe I shouldn't bring it up, but even with this horrible recent death with George Floyd, He tested positive back in April 4th for COVID. And on his autopsy was still positive by a PCR test. Still had it. And how far along out was that? You know, it's like, we don't know how long are you going to be contagious. We don't know how long are you going to test positive. So that's why many of the recommendations are, if you're exposed to a positive, you are supposed to stay in isolation, quarantine for 2 weeks, because anywhere from 3 to 14 days is where the symptoms can occur. If you test positive, you stay quarantined for 2 weeks from that testing positive, or 1 week after the symptoms go away. So if it's been 2 weeks since you tested positive, but you're still having symptoms, you're still supposed to stay quarantined until 1 week after those symptoms go away. And that's how we pretty much decide this quarantine thing, you know, because we don't understand even the transmission of this. They say that 80% of the infections are transmitted by 10% of the people. And that this might be a lot more aerosolized than what they thought before. We talked about how it lives on the surfaces for 48, 72 hours. But it can live in the air, they believe, for 12 hours. So even if you walk into a room by yourself, if somebody had it and they were in that room before you less than 12 hours ago, you can still get it. You can still develop it. Even in Richmond, Virginia, I was told this morning by a friend that in Richmond, Virginia, that if you go into a public place, you have to have a mask on, or it's a $2,100 fine. Like, you don't get the option. We still have the options here. We still have those options. And what I'm asking is for you just to think about what's happening to make those decisions on what you're going to do. Okay? Do you have older people that live in your house that are at risk? Do you have immunocompromised? Do you have people who are on medications, bad diabetics, people who smoke, people who vape? Are you willing to take the risk with kids for this multi-system inflammatory syndrome? And if you are, you do what you want, okay? But if you are trying to avoid these risks, then please, please take the precautions, whether you think they're right or wrong. Just take the precautions. Remember, those possible complications of COVID with blood clots, the pulmonary effusions or the pneumonias that you develop, those are happening week 2 and on. And they're still showing people getting these blood clots 4 weeks afterwards. People showing heart attacks from COVID 4 weeks afterwards. They still don't understand these late syndromes where people are still having 4 weeks, 8 weeks, even 12 weeks afterwards, still having these symptoms of just this extreme fatigue, and nobody understands that process or how long that's going to last either. And the bottom line, really, you guys, and this is why I haven't done any more webinars recently, is that we're still waiting for the science of this. We're still waiting for the studies to show us. We're still waiting for all of these unfortunate people that have experienced this and gone through this, what worked in them and what didn't work in them. And that's what we're still waiting to find out. The thing with hydroxy and zithromycin, they're showing that 90% of what we are doing as providers to try to fix this is actually hurting people. There was a hydroxy paper that just came out. It was one of the first ones that just came out this last week that was supposed to be a research-based paper that we could really use. And it came out saying that there was no difference between hydroxy and placebo. Well, there was a 2% difference, which isn't clinically significant, between hydroxy and placebo. That was released. The next day, they took it back and said, never mind, that study was tainted, and they revoked it. So there's still no papers. There's still no research to show this. I can tell you the one thing that I have really learned from this is, I heard today again from a friend saying that people are saying, I have my life all figured out. Everything in my life, I had it figured out. And it was going the way that this COVID thing hit. And I'm going to tell you, I think this COVID thing helped me figure my life out. I think this COVID thing really helped me to figure out what are really those things that I want to focus on every day more than anything else. What are the most important things in my life? Because when I've got to experience this last 4 months closer with my kids and my wife, God, than I ever have, these are the most important things in my life. Redesigning our life, redesigning my life, that's what this has done for me. I don't have the answers. Nobody, please listen, nobody has the answers. We're still waiting for those answers. So until then, we need to figure out how much risks are we willing to take and allow each other to figure those risks out. I'm just asking you, please don't put my family at risk. Please. So when I get another new update, I will definitely bring it to you. Redesigning you, redesign you, that's what we do. That's what our lives are about. That's what redesignyou.com is all about. Website will be on at the bottom here. And if you think that we might be able to help you out, please reach out to us. This is what we love to do. Myself, my health coaches, integrative cardiologist, integrative pediatrician, we've got a whole team ready to help people out. Anyways, stay safe, use your common sense, and live by facts, not by fear. Thanks.